The enemy's blade drives home a perfect stab. It's the exact same blade tip Incrid has now watched coming at him 17 times over. He crumples under the same finishing blow from the same soldier. This is his 17th death. Blood fills his throat, and with his last conscious thought, he wishes he'd wielded his sword with a little more effort. He collapses face down into a spreading pool of his own blood, the same bitter question echoing in his mind. Maybe, if things had gone differently, he wouldn't have died here at all. He sinks into cold darkness, and somewhere beyond it, a lantern begins to sway. A voice cuts through the black. Do you really think that? It belongs to the boatman, the ferryman who waits at the edge of death, telling him, almost mockingly, to go ahead and try struggling. Feel it properly, he says, and then give up. Fall into despair, in front of the wall you can never cross. But Incrid wants none of it. Even here, his eyes still burn with defiance. A gong clangs him awake, back at camp. Beside him, his tattooed squadmate blinks in surprise. He's never seen Incrid wake up this fast. It's a bug, wriggling in his boot again. Incrid yelps and flings it out with a curse. His squadmate stomps it flat and asks, half joking, if Incrid put the thing there himself. Incrid insists he just watched it crawl in earlier. This is the 18th time he's seen that exact same bug's corpse. He wonders how many more times he'll have to watch it before he's finally allowed to move past this day. Once again, he wonders whether he'll ever see this day end. Incrid had wielded a sword since he was a boy, swinging it over and over long before anyone called him a soldier. His first teacher was a retired, one-legged mercenary who happened through his village, and watching him train told him something that changed everything. At this rate, he could actually become a knight. The words hit him like nothing had before. Me, a knight. In his head, he could already see it, a knight who could cut down 1,000 enemies alone and turn the tide of any battlefield. He imagined himself the invincible hero of some wandering bard's ballad. Let's leave, he told himself. Let's leave the village and become a knight. Then came the tavern, where grown mercenaries howled with laughter, mocking the coward once scared off by a stray dog for daring to dream of knighthood, sneering that he wasn't even fit to be a free mercenary. That was the moment Incrid understood his talent was nothing special. Still, having left the village to join a mercenary company, only to learn how ordinary he was, he refused to let one failure be the end of it. Hard work never betrays you, he told himself, and kept swinging his sword night after night. He carried that resolve onto real battlefields, cutting down monsters with the same stubborn will. I could overcome it all, he told himself, and drove his blade home. Kill by kill, he gained real experience, strength and endurance solid, enough that people around him finally began to acknowledge it. I'm becoming stronger, he thought. I can become a knight. But that hard-won hope was about to be shattered. For a moment, victory had felt close enough to touch. Then just as fast, it started to shatter. A boy from the village where he was staying had challenged him to a duel. Old man, you're weak, the boy sneered. A boy who had only just picked up a sword. He was 12 years old and had started learning swordsmanship only 6 months before. Yet the plotter who had spent over a decade wielding a blade until his palms wore raw proved endlessly more pathetic than a genius's 6 months. Was this how all his hard work amounted to nothing? Was there truly no way through? Even in despair, one thought refused to leave him. I want to become a knight. Everyone might call it a hopeless dream, so he decided he would simply spend many times more effort than anyone else to earn it. So he kept swinging and swinging. One day, he told himself, screaming out his frustration with every strike. He trained through exhaustion and into the dawn, chasing a strength that refused to come easily. Spent. He looked up at the tree he trained against and saw every mark his effort had carved into its trunk. Even if I can never become a knight, he told himself, raising his sword again and swinging, I can at least become an experienced soldier. He screamed and kept swinging. The bare winter tree carried the sound of every strike he threw at it. 3 years later, in the present, he had joined the Cyprus Division, 4 companies, each split into 4 platoons. Each platoon split again into 4 squads. After all that endless training, The best he'd managed was squad commander of a so-called second-rate squad. Still, he told himself, a regular soldier of the kingdom beat a traveling mercenary. "Hey Jackson," he called out. "What is it? Take my morning duty rotation for me today. Repay me next time," Jackson grumbled, crouching to comply. Rem needled that the man was a wild cat who did nothing but glare at people. Then Incrid turned to him. "Rem." He wanted to learn the heart of the beast. Again, Rem raised an eyebrow. "Did you give up on it last time? You really think it'll work now?" Then the battle began. Again, the Naulilia versus Aspen close combat engagement, where Incrid kept dying. Each time, he came back to life and relived the same day from the start. Even after learning the heart of the beast from Rem in every loop, all he could do was watch as the same blade found him. "I still can't watch the tip of the sword that stabs me," he admitted to himself. Today, he thought, today for sure. The enemy line bristled with spears as both sides closed the distance. The soldiers roared and charged. "This is my 21st time on this same battlefield," Incrid thought. He had this repeating moment. Down cold, he twisted clear of a spear thrust that had killed him in loops before. Next is an attack from behind, he thought, and turned to block it before it landed. And then another squad member, Vel, was screaming under attack. "He'll die soon," Incrid thought, remembering exactly how this moment had always played out before. "No, not this time," he told himself and moved. He threw himself into the gap as an arrow closed in, and Vel could only stare in shock. Incrid blocked the arrow meant for Vel and cut down the enemy pressing the attack. It worked. "What's left now?" he thought, steadying himself. Across the field, the enemy pulled his sword free of the man he had just cut down. That masked soldier stared straight at Incrid. "I always end up facing that bastard without fail," he thought. The man started walking toward him, unhurried, the way he always did. "He has stabbed my neck and killed me 20 times, Incrid thought, steadying his breath. "I will survive," he told himself. A memory surfaced Rem's voice. "Since you always close your eyes in dangerous situations." Rem had swung his axe straight at Incrid's face in training, and Incrid had flinched and shut his eyes despite himself. Look, Rem had said flatly, watching him flinch. "Do that on the battlefield, and you'll die instantly. You need to be brave, never agitated, never startled. Become someone who knows nothing about death. Like a beast," Rem told him. That is the heart of the beast, a beast that doesn't know death," Incrid repeated to himself, watching the enemy's blade close in. "Am I afraid of death? No," he answered himself. "Death only makes me stronger." This time, he didn't blink as the blade came for him. He forced himself to keep watching it, even as his pulse hammered. His heart pounded, thump, thump, louder than it ever had. For the very first time, he moved. "Today, on my 21st try, I dodged his stab for the fur, having finally escaped the thrust that always killed him." Incrid and the soldier locked eyes, and both lunged to attack at once. But the enemy was faster. The enemy's blade drove into Incrid's throat. Blood poured from the wound as his vision began slipping toward the underworld. He heard the boatman again and felt himself sinking toward that dark water. "In this never-ending day, I have been trapped feeling pain." "Give up," the boatman told him. "Get on the boat, acknowledge your weak self, and be at ease." "No," Incrid answered. "That day will never come," he said, and grinned like he meant it. "You piece of shit," he spat, waking back at camp with the curse still on his tongue. "But I saw the tip of his sword with my own 2 eyes, he told himself. The alarm clanged through camp. "Squad commander, you woke up immediately today," someone called out. "I am moving forward, one step at a time," he thought. Wiping himself down with grim resolve, Incrid made his vow. "On my 22nd day, I am challenging it again." The scene lurches back into the chaos of battle, blades flashing all around him. This is his 33rd time through this fight, and once more, he slips past the soldier's signature thrust. "I can see it clearly now," he thinks, as the enemy pulls back to strike again. The soldier pivots to press the attack, and Incrid scrambles to dodge a second time. He tells himself he'll get clear before the blade reaches him. But he isn't fast enough. The sword opens his throat. Shit, he chokes out. The soldier is simply too fast. He drops to his knees as the blood pours out. As he falls, a necklace slips loose and lands in the dirt. The charm that started all of this. In my time as a mercenary, Incrid begins, I took down my fair share of monsters. He remembers himself sprinting through a forest, breathless, a slain beast lying in the grass. Behind him, jobs he took on, he says, entirely of his own free will. One day, he explains, he stumbled onto a village begging for help, and the reason he agreed was simple. His dream was to become a knight, and this was the road toward it. Protecting the weak, he tells himself, is a knight's duty. Afterward, the village elder clasps his hands together and apologizes. Their village is poor, and this is all they can offer him. Incrid looks down at what's been pressed into his palm. A charm for a man who just risked his life. It feels like a laughable reward. But the elder tells him it will grant whatever he desperately wishes for. Could it be? Incrid wonders now, staring at the charm on the ground. Is this thing the reason this day keeps repeating? Just so I could become a knight. He falls once more, run through by the sword. You must be suffering, the soldier tells him, raising his blade. He looms over Incrid's fallen body, sword lifted for the finishing blow. Mercy, Incrid spits back, mocking him. The soldier only grins wider beneath his hood. Savoring it, the blade comes down. You're just a pervert who gets off on stabbing people, Incrid thinks, as the killing blow lands. His body goes limp, swallowed up by the chaos of the battlefield. The clatter of pots and pans snaps him back awake. Rem, he says immediately, I put an insect in that boot. Incrid watches him calmly, while Rem jolts half-naked out of his bunk. Whoa, what the fuck? Playing tricks the second the day starts, Rem grumbles. Has he finally lost his mind? Incrid vaults down from his bunk. Stop shouting and come outside, he says. His bare foot cracks against the floor. He wants to learn the heart of the beast. He tells Rem, his face set. Rem studies him for a long moment, before the scene cuts out to open sky. Training begins in earnest. Rem, shirtless, swings his axe at him full force. Incrid keeps his eyes locked on the blade as it comes. He twists out of the way just in time, the axe head whistling past and missing him clean. Rem stops, confused. What are you doing? He asks. How is the skin of your heart suddenly gotten thicker out of nowhere? I trained, Incrid says simply. This has already happened more than 10 times. Incrid thinks to himself, while Rem mutters that there's no way his family's secret technique got taught to someone else. It's like Rem said, Incrid thinks. It's a sensation he's learned from dying over and over. What's so important about that? The two of them walk off together, and Incrid grabs a pair of practice weapons. Let's have one more bout, he says, gripping his sword. Rem grins, clearly liking the idea. Sounds great, he says. Even if I've learned the heart of the beast, Incrid thinks, I'll still die if I can't land a strike of my own. The spar kicks off, blade and axe clashing through the air. Incrid keeps dodging, weaving clear of every swing. How long are you going to keep dodging for? Rem shouts. The axe keeps coming, and Incrid darts forward to slip past it again. The only swordsmanship I know, he explains, is the Volan mercenary sword technique. It's an unorthodox style, built by a mercenary named Volan, one plenty of people dismiss as nothing but cheap tricks. Your lower body strength is pretty weak, Rem calls out, needling him mid-fight. Both of them launch into the air, weapons raised. Still, he tells himself, planting his foot among everything I've got. This is the most decent technique I have. He lunges forward and thrusts, and Rem's eyes go wide. For a split second, it isn't Rem in front of him. It's the masked soldier who's killed him again and again. Back at camp, Incrid throws himself into sparring, sword crossing Rem's axe again and again as he hunts for the exact feel of that stab. The strike goes wide, and the sword clatters uselessly into the dirt. For one heartbeat, he swears he almost had it, his whole body trembling with the memory of it. He's imitating the enemy's exact stab. After dying to that same blade more than 10 times, his body remembers every inch of it. Still, he grits out a curse. That strike should have drawn blood. Rem shows him, hit it like this, with real weight behind it. And Crid gets it instantly. Yes, that's the piece he was missing, the impact that should have made his hand bleed. Rem's blunt critique lands harder than the sword did in Crid. He says is far too doubtful of himself. So Rem coaches the mindset along with the form, commit like the strike can't fail, snarl that the enemy can't dodge it, growl you're dead meat now, anything to keep the grip locked tight on his sword. He explains it badly, but Crid understands exactly what he means, and finally sees the real difference between his own stab and that bastard's. Sword drawn again, Crid throws himself back into the memory of battle, teeth gritted through the pain of it. The truth was simple all along. He never had confidence in his own blade. Old memories crash over him, one after another, soldier after soldier cut down in the rain by that same blade. And the same too, mocking words, here's some mercy. This time he tells himself he has to stab with the true intent to kill. More failures flood back. With it every clash, every death, that same scarred, grinning face standing over him. Still he charges forward, shield raised, telling himself he'll advance even if it's only one step at a time. No, he growls back at the memory even as it answers, again with the enemy's same cold mercy. He'll advance even if it's just a quarter of a step, he swears to himself, while the memory of that same mercy keeps answering back. Loss after loss flashes past the 123rd day, and every day before it, always ending exactly the same way. Finally, on the 124th day, something is different. Crid drives the blade again and again, blow after blow, teeth bared through the blood on his face. His grip never loosens, even as his bandaged hand splits open around the hilt. Rem meets him, strike for strike, pushing him harder and faster, until Crid is gasping just to keep up. Rem finally stops, staring at him. His hands are worn raw, blood gushing out around the grip, and still he doesn't stop. Rem asks why he's laughing like a madman, Crid can't even answer him. He's finally done it, a little faster this time, he tells himself, stepping onto the battlefield with pure murderous intent. The enemy soldier is already there waiting, and the two of them close, the distance at a dead run. Blades meet in a shower of sparks for the first time, Crid's thrust actually grazes the man's helmet, but the enemy is just as fast, closing the last of the gap in the same instant. His first real stab attempt is a failure. The enemy's blade lands square in his throat. Even now, he won't blink, and he won't let go of his sword. He goes down still gripping it, holding onto everything that led to this one stab. The soldier plants a boot on his chest, sneering that he looks like he's suffering, still catching his own breath. The man repeats his usual line, "This is mercy." Pinned and bleeding, Crid forces out an answer, "Tomorrow." The soldier blinks, confused, until Crid finishes it. "You're going to die." As the blade comes down, one bitter thought runs through him. It's all still just in his head. The soldier only laughs. The dead, he says, don't get a tomorrow. And with that, he executes him. Everything goes dark. Then, somewhere in that darkness, the charm around his neck flares back to life. Alone, Crid keeps running through the same sword strikes, again and again. Back at camp, his squadmates notice he's gone and murmur about it. He thanks one of them, then casually hands off his own guard duty, earning a muttered complaint about being ordered around so casually. This marks the 125th day. Vel calls out to him, still ribbing him with the nickname Big Eyes, and he turns to answer. He asks her to scrounge up shin armor, a shield, and a dagger, promising to pay her back later. She agrees to trust him, if only because he's the boss. She doesn't usually do anyone favors. Around them, the squad's usual noise rolls on, grumbling about chores dumped on one soldier, Rem threatening someone with his axe, and a sarcastic blessing tossed Crid's way before he heads off. Elsewhere, the squad notices him training with unusual intensity. He's not usually like this, someone murmurs, Crid drives his sword into the tree. Again and again, he feels an incredible amount of pain every time he dies, but he grits his teeth through it. He wonders what happens if he still can't win, even after tens of thousands of attempts. What if he never finds a way to survive, or somehow escapes the battlefield? Would he finally wake up tomorrow, Or would he still be forced to repeat this same day? He wonders if he could simply be satisfied with all the strength he's already gained. But no, that isn't an option for him. He has to surpass this. He refuses to be a coward, and he will never surrender. He will break through this wall and find out what's waiting on the other side of it. Repeating this same day over and over has at least taught him to master the heart of the beast, facing death without flinching. He thrusts his sword into the tree again and again, and somewhere in all those repetitions, he's finally learned how to stab properly too. He won't throw away this blessing, the chance to live this day again and again until he gets it right. Then piece by piece, he starts strapping on his equipment, preparing for the battle to come. He has to keep moving forward. This time he tells himself he's going to win. The horn of war sounds across the camp, and Crid's squad falls in and marches toward the battlefield behind him. The war begins. He reminds himself why he's lasted this long with no real talent, preparation, luck, and keeping a cool head while a spear nearly catches him from the side. On the 46th day, his left shoulder was shattered by a spiked mace. On the 47th day, he rolled clear of the mace, only for someone else to crush his head instead. Since then he's learned to take the hit on his shin guard and block low. On the 71st day, a soldier down low cut off his foot before he could lay a hand on the pervert. He dies again, cut down mid-motion. On the 89th day, his head was split open by a thrown axe. Some deaths teach him priorities instead of technique. If he lets a certain soldier lie, that man interrupts his duel with the pervert, so killing him first stops being optional. He's trained in throwing weapons through countless repeated days, so when an axe comes flying at him from behind, dodging it and hurling his own straight back is nothing difficult anymore. Then he hears Vel scream. After everything, she's ended up right behind him. Just like before, he steps in and blocks the arrow meant for him. A sharpshooter nicknamed the Claw of the Hawk closes in next. There's no time to finish him properly, so Crid cuts him down on the move. Now, finally, it's time to face the wall standing in front of him. The pervert stares back, and the two of them hold a long, tense standoff across the battlefield. Then, the soldier charges, and Crid blocks the attack, but his shield shatters under it. He throws away what's left of it and charges forward. Dodging and stabbing alone was never going to be enough to win this fight. He blocks the next attack with his sword instead. This is no ordinary soldier, strong enough to be close to a prodigy, but he lacks real combat experience, which makes him easy to catch off guard. And Crid headbutts him. The Valen mercenary sword technique, with all its deceptive variations, is perfect for a fight like this. And Crid gets dirt on his boot and kicks it straight into the soldier's eyes, while the man is still blinded. And Crid jumps at him. The soldier sees him coming and thrusts his sword forward. And Crid dodges it. The enemy lands after, missing, and instantly spins around, already lining up his next attack. But Crid does the same by now. He knows everything there is to know about that thrust, everything there is to know about that stab. He strikes the blade itself. The sword shatters into pieces. At the same moment, an archer draws back his bow. He looses the arrow, and it flies across the battlefield. The soldier lets go of his broken weapon as Crid closes in to finish it. I win, but the arrow from earlier is still hurtling straight toward him. Just before it reaches him, an axe cuts through the shaft and knocks it apart. Rem stepping in to save him, and Crid drives his blade into the soldier's throat. Rem moves to go after the archer himself, but Jackson pulls him back. Not worth wasting the energy. He can barely hold himself upright, breath ragged, sweat cutting tracks through the blood and dust on his face. He gasps for air, his body still shaking with pain long after his mind has started to believe it might actually be over. Fires still burn across the battlefield. Around him, his own eyes stay wide, disbelieving, like he's waiting for the wind to be a trick. His grip stays locked, white-knuckled around the sword. After so many loops ending in his own death, he isn't ready to let it go yet. The fight surges on without pause around him, and his stunned expression says he's still catching up to what he just did. I've finally broken through, he tells himself. The thought lands harder than the kill did. For one suspended moment, he's back at the wall in his mind. And for the first time in hundreds of tries, it's behind him. There's no time to rest. He drags himself back into the fight. The battle still raging in every direction. The squad pushes forward together, cutting through the enemy line, while they still have the momentum. Out of the chaos, someone new is closing in, fast, and he is furious. A blow lands square in Incrid's back without warning. The squad calls this one Ponytail, and he comes down like a falling boulder. Up close, his blue-marked face twists with rage. He's a frogman. And the soldier Incrid just killed was one he'd spent years raising. He can't believe someone as weak-looking as Incrid took him down. He raises his weapon over the exhausted, half-conscious Incrid and orders him to die. Out of nowhere, an axe comes spinning in and slams the strike aside before it can land. Rem has arrived, and he isn't backing down from a frogman twice his size. Axe and blade lock together, both fighters leaning hard into the pressure, refusing to give an inch. They trade blow after blow in, a blur of sparks and grunts, neither one landing a clean hit. Meanwhile, another enemy soldier spots Incrid lying defenseless and raises a spear for the kill. Jackson gets there first, and his blade doesn't miss. There's no time to stop and check the kill. The whole line is still collapsing around them. Rem and Ponytail break apart, a few feet of scorched ground between them, a stalemate for now. To cut off our squad commander's head, Rem says, "You'll need my permission first." Ponytail sneers back, "That weakling is the commander." Rem explains, "Frogmen are a warrior race born for battle. To put one down for good," he says, "you either burn it with magic or pierce its heart in a single decisive strike." Ponytail studies him, wondering why a fighter like this is wasting himself on such a minor battlefield. To actually kill Rem here, he realizes, he'd have to risk his own life doing it, and this battle simply isn't worth that risk. Without another word, Ponytail turns and walks away. Coward, Rem spits after him. With the frogman gone, Jackson scoops Incrid up and starts running, hauling him clear of the fighting. Rem cuts down anyone who gets in their path, clearing the way with his axe. Another enemy tries to follow, but another squadmate steps in and stops him cold. One by one, the enemy line falls as more of the squad rallies around them to cover the retreat. Incrid's vision starts to swim, the world tilting and blurring at the edges. Somewhere above the noise, someone screams the order to retreat. Over and over, the banner swings around, and the whole line falls back together as one. Incrid's eyes slip shut, and he's back in that dark, familiar place. "You managed to survive a day," the boatman tells him, "but that's it. You won't be able to withstand every wall still waiting in your path," he says. "Your fate is to despair and give up." "Fate?" Incrid asks, still bowed low in that dark water. Slowly, he starts pulling himself back up. "For me," he says, "the walls exist. I too be overcome." Incrid meets his gaze without flinching. "I'll be waiting eagerly," the boatman tells him. For the moment, those eyes, so full of greed and ambition, finally lose their light. Incrid wakes with a start, bandaged head to chest, staring up at an unfamiliar canvas ceiling. This place, it's the infirmary tent. Rem is already there, leaning over him with a smirk. "I saved you from that fucking frog, remember?" Incrid winces upright, and Rem presses further. Wasn't Incrid the one who called him his best friend forever? Incrid just glares back and tells him to shut up. The bickering keeps going, the kind that only happens between two people who trust each other completely. The sky outside shifts to full daylight, and a familiar red-haired face pokes through the flap. "You in here?" It's Craze, the squad's resident merchant, grinning as he needles Incrid for throwing himself into the thick of the fighting yet again. As always, Incrid points out he never once spotted Craze anywhere on the battlefield. Craze just laughs it off, offering him a special discount, pay it all back just double. As the light outside fades toward evening, word seems to be spreading that Incrid is finally awake. Jackson ducks in next, arms crossed, all business. "What is it?" Incrid asks. "If you've got business with me, then speak up." Jackson just tosses something onto the bed without a word. "Apply it morning and evening, twice a day." Incrid recognizes the little tin. It's the ointment Jackson uses on himself. Nearby, a tall figure kneels in prayer, murmuring and crying softly over him. Just go, Incrid tells him. That night, alone with his thoughts, Incrid watches the tent glow faintly against the dark sky. He wonders why all of them keep taking turns sitting with him. Could it be they're actually worried about him? Footsteps approach in the dark, and someone else slips into the tent. Zo! The soldier stops short, surprised. He's gone again, almost as fast as he arrived. This is Ragna, and there's no way Incrid decides that Ragna was actually worried about him. The man's too carefree for that. Besides Incrid, two other soldiers share the infirmary tent. One is a platoon commander from another company, who's always looking for a fight with him. The other is a soldier Incrid doesn't even know, someone who just stares blankly into space and says nothing. He looks like such a low-ranking nobody. Then footsteps sound outside, heavier, unfamiliar, deliberate. Every head in the tent turns toward the entrance. A woman with long, pale hair steps through the flap, and as she turns, the point of her ear catches the light. An elf, armored and cloaked, one hand resting easy on the hilt at her side. She carries herself like a commander in her own right. Her green eyes sweep the tent, searching, and they land on Incrid, who can only stare back, caught completely off guard, as someone new steps into his story.